Welcome back to Cities Speak. I'm Clarence Anthony, your host and CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities. This is our first City Speak podcast in 2023, and we are so fortunate and lucky to be joined in person by an amazing local leader who was also just recently elected our new president of the National League of Cities. Folks, today we are so honored to have with us Mayor Victoria Woodards of Tacoma, Washington. Y'all, I am so honored to welcome to Cities Speak Mayor Victoria Woodards, the president of the National League of Cities and mayor of Tacoma, Washington. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you, Clarence. It is an honor to be joining you. And it's even more of an honor to be joining you in person, to be right here at NLC, where the work really gets done on behalf of cities, towns, and villages across the country. So delighted to be here. Looking forward to this conversation. I want to make one small correction. I am the 39th mayor. We haven't had 49 mayors yet, but if I should come back and be the 49th mayor, that'd be okay with me. But somehow I think I'll be long gone when that number comes up. But such an honor to be here with you today.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate that. So let's kick off things. Just tell me something about your story of how you got to be in public service and your background.
Well, as you talk to mayors or elected officials across the country, you find that we all have a different path that got us to where we are. Some people planned it. Some people inherited it. Some people ran into it. Some people had no idea, like me, and just ended up here. But for me, my story is one that probably is fairly common in that I just wanted to be of service. I think if you talk to elected officials across the country, most of us get into this work because we want to make our communities better. And so in high school, I worked in community. Out of high school, I thought I would go see the world, and I joined the U.S. Army and ended up stationed right back at Fort Lewis, Washington, in my own town. And so spent 3 years in the Army serving my country, but then wanted to get out and thought if I'm going to be at home, I might as well be at home. And got out and went to work in corporate America for a while, and then decided I wanted to go back to school because I hadn't gotten my college degree. And it was while I was taking colleges at night that I got that phone call that I think changed the trajectory of my life. And that phone call was from one of my church members who said, Tom Dixon at the Urban League. Tom Dixon was the founding CEO of the Tacoma Urban League. She said, Tom Dixon's looking for an assistant. And I said, good for Tom Dixon. I'm not looking for a job. I was going to school at night, living with my mother, living with my parents. It was a great gig, working a little bit during the day in my late 20s. Who doesn't want that kind of lifestyle? But, I interviewed with her, and I said I'd take the interview, and I interviewed with Tom Dixon and the entire board. And after 4 different interviews, I finally accepted the job. And that really is how I formalized my commitment to service, and basically how I met most of the people that I either now know, or who were leaders in the community before I even came onto the scene. And so that's where I met Harold Moss, who later became my father. But Harold Moss was the first African-American city council member, mayor, and county council member. And I met Harold there and went to go, and Harold offered me a job after 5 years at the Urban League. And I, after a lot of contemplation, took the job. And that's how I got into policy. And I'll be honest, I never thought even working in policy. I always liked being behind the person who was out front, but I never wanted to be the face of the work. I liked being able to call up another office and say, hey, this is Victoria Woodards from Harold Moss's office. You understand?
Yeah.
You get to use your boss's name, but you're not necessarily responsible for all the things that an elected official is responsible for. And so as Harold retired and people kept talking to me, I thought, well, if I ever want to do anything, maybe a parks commissioner, because in my city, parks commissioners are elected. And sure enough, I said that out loud, and 2 days later, a position opened up on the park board. So I took that as a sign. Be careful what you say. When you put it out there, God will give it back to you, at least for me, or the universe, whatever you call it, will give it back to you. And he did, and I accepted and went on from the park board to the same kind of similar situation happened when I got elected to the city council, when I decided to run. And then the same thing happened for mayor. So here I am. 5 years, a year into my second term as mayor, and I never would have envisioned as a young person that this could be my life today, that I could be sitting in the offices of the National League of Cities, this little Black girl from Tacoma, and I'm its president. And I would have never imagined that, but I cannot tell you how humbling and what an honor it is to be able to serve in this way, not just for the city of Tacoma, but now for the state of Washington and the United States. And I couldn't be more happy.
Wow, what a great story, and what a great journey. When you think of leaders that you admire, what characteristics do they have, and has that sort of made you a certain type of leader?
Absolutely. I admire a lot of different leaders, but it is those characteristics. There's not one leader that I say has it all, but I will say that Harold Moss, to me, embodied what real compassionate leadership looks like. I think I tease my mom and I say, "You and Harold must have had an affair sometime in my life, because sometime in your lives, not mine, because I feel like I was cut from the same cloth of him." It isn't necessarily about what you say. It's about what you do and how you behave. And when I met Harold, his love for people is the same love I have for people. And people doesn't just mean the owner of the restaurant or the CEO of the company. It's about the janitor or the first person that you meet at the front desk. It's about every relationship. And I watched Harold exude that day after day, year after year, when I worked for him. And it was something that I already had in me. And then not just the love of people, but the ability to know that recognizing the greatness in others doesn't take away from the greatness of yourself. And that it's okay. Like, I have no problem. I don't care about credit. I just care about getting a job done. And Harold was the same way. It was all about making sure that those people who were involved in whatever the work was, that they got credit for their part in the work. And I think that gives people confidence to step forward and continue to do the work. And so I think those are two qualities that are really important to me. And that's why in my theme, People, Partnerships, and Possibilities, the first word is people, because I believe that it's how we treat people and how we interact with people that can change absolutely anything. So when I think about leaders like Harold Moss, I think about the brilliance that we have in our former mayor and now Congresswoman, Marilyn Strickland. And I think, there are national leaders that I admire, but I'm so blessed in my own city to have people to look up to. I think about the late Dr. Dolores Silas, an African-American woman, the first African-American woman to serve on the city council. And I just think about the way that they led, again, in all humbleness and compassion. And I think those are two qualities that if a leader possesses those qualities, they can do amazing work.
So, can you talk about maybe some of your proudest moments that you've experienced as mayor?
Ooh, I think about 5 years, there's so much, even in the midst of the pure fact that we survived COVID and are hopefully on the other side. That's an accomplishment all by itself. When I say that, I think about the fact that something I'm incredibly proud of as a city is the way we pivoted during COVID. Right? You used to say telecommute in government, and people would look at you like, "What are you talking about? We only come to the office." And we pivoted very quickly and were able to stand up and didn't miss a day of services and supporting our community. I would also say, so I'll think of a couple. One, just recently, we had the opportunity to appoint a new city council member. One of our council members stepped off, and we appointed the first Latina council member in the history of the city council. I'm extremely proud that right now my city council is the most diverse city council we have ever had in the history. We have 6 women. The majority of my council is women. The most we've ever had is 3. On top of that, we have, with the majority of our council, 5 people are people of color. And I laughed about it at the conference, but I'm 57. I'm the oldest member of my council. And so just the sheer diversity in the council is something I'm extremely proud of. I'm also proud of the fact that I started the city's first youth commission. When I was running, I said, you know what? I'm a person who believes that children aren't our future; they're our present, and we have to engage them now. And so it wasn't just the fact that we formed it, but when we put out applications, we were hoping to get 20 and pick, 13 to 16 members. We got over 100 applications of young people who wanted to serve on the commission, and we took them all and allowed them to form their own commission, make their own rules. What I loved about that is they chose their name. They wanted to be the Mayor's Youth Commission. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that in Tacoma, we launched what we call SHAPE, which is a collaboration built around housing. It's SHAPE stands for the South Sound Housing Affordability Partnership. We took all the cities, towns, and villages in my county, and we called all the mayors together to talk about affordable housing. It'd been tried before around homelessness, but we didn't really get any traction. So went back and I started working with the county executive, and we pulled together the cities, towns, and villages in Pierce County to have this conversation around housing and affordable housing and attainable housing, and accessible housing, right? And so it's now a formal organization. 90% of people are represented by their cities, towns, and villages in this partnership. And so it is now formalized. We're making asks of our state legislators. But let me be clear, Pierce County is extremely diverse. Extremely diverse. And the fact that we could get that many mayors to come together and agree to work on this together. And I like what our executive says, we are a coalition of the willing. We don't spend time talking about what we don't agree on. We spend time and energy focused on what we do agree on and pushing that forward. So that's something I'm really proud of. And then finally, if I had to pick just one more thing, I would say, although it's ending this month, I'm really proud of the fact that Tacoma was able to participate in Mayors for Guaranteed Income. I'm a founding mayor, honored to be a part of that, but even more delighted that for the last year, we were able to give $500 a month to 110 families in Tacoma. And I've had an opportunity to hear some of those stories, and it has changed the trajectory of people's lives. There's a young father who has 3 sons, single father with 3 sons, and he's just a little bit over the income range to get any assistance. But through this program, he qualified. In the year, he was able to get his son a tutor. They used to sit at the dinner table and argue every night back and forth with his sons about their homework, and his youngest son was struggling. He was failing. With this money, he was able to get his son a tutor, and now everybody loves to come to dinner because they're not arguing over that, and his son is now getting A's and B's. Not only that, in this year's time, because he had a little breathing room and he didn't have to worry about whether it was groceries or his son's tutoring or his other son's medicine, he was able to focus at work and take the right amount of tests to get promotions. And now in January, when he no longer has this extra $500 a month, he's been able to make up some of that income by studying and being promoted at work. So that only confirms why this is a really good thing for us to take up nationally. So I'm really proud about that and the other 109 families that we helped.
That is so great when you're able to see your work change lives, see your work in action. And I think that that's what local leaders do every day. They have this vision about what they can do to make their communities better. Now you're at the national level now, and we're so proud again to have you as our president. And we've mentioned this at the top a little bit, but I'd really like to dive in a little bit more because during your year as president of NLC, your theme is really focused on people plus partnerships equals possibilities. Break that down for us, and what does it equate to and mean to you as the president?
Well, as I said earlier, the first word is people. Number one, that's who we all are, and that's who we all serve, and it's who we all work with and live with and play with and celebrate with and cry with. Right? It's about people. This work is about people, and so for me, when I think about Tacoma, and I think about how great, I say around other mayors, other electeds, I go, I'm the mayor of the best city in the universe, and they all laugh at me, and I'm like, because I believe that. But what makes my city the best in my mind is not the fact that if you come to Tacoma, and Clarence, you've been, it's a beautiful city,
beautiful city,
waterfront, mountain, a nice downtown, distinct neighborhoods, good restaurants. We have award-winning park system. I mean, we have all the great amenities. We have incredible museums, but that's not enough, because if we had all of those things and we had no people, Tacoma would be nothing. So to me, what makes Tacoma the great city is the people who choose to call it home. And I mean choose, because people can choose where they live, and they choose to live there. And so for me, the first thing we have to focus on as electeds is our people. And I think there are two ways. One, we focus on them in the policy that we set. And two, we focus on them in the policy that we make. Because if I always tell people, if you elected me to have all the answers, you elected the wrong person. You elected me, I hope you elected me, because I listen and I can hear from people. And I think it's important to engage people in this conversation about their cities and what we're doing. So again, I think it's about, who we make policy for and who we make policy with. And engaging people to do that work. And then it is through engaging those people that we create these partnerships. And I mean partnerships with individuals, but partnerships with our corporate partners, with our nonprofits, with any non-government organization, even with other governments, right? We cannot do this work alone. We cannot save a city. We can't fix any one issue. And I don't care what the issue is, call it a pothole. If we can't fix a pothole by ourselves. Number one, we need funding. So we need tax dollars. That comes from people. We need support from businesses and others to help get us the materials that will fill that pothole. And then we need the staff at the city to go out and fill the pothole. And I simplify it, but it really takes a little bit of everybody to get any one thing done. So it is true partnership, true collaboration to me that will allow us to solve any problem. And I also think when we use the expertise, as I said, no one person can solve it alone, but when we use the expertise of others in partnership, that is when we create not just possibilities, but endless possibilities. When I think about the last 2.5, almost 3 years now in COVID, and I think about where we started, and I think about, we'll stop at last June, June of 2022. I think about the unprecedented funding that has come from the federal government to local cities. I think about the infrastructure bill that is now out, and the work that NLC is doing to make sure that all cities are included and have access to that. When I think about the Jobs Act, when I think of just about all these things that have come out at the end of COVID to help cities, we really have unprecedented opportunities. But those opportunities can only be realized when we turn them into possibilities for others. And so for me, as I think about the possibilities, I think about the ability for people to come together to create partnerships. And then we have those endless possibilities. And it almost is a circle, right? Because once you get those endless possibilities, it goes back to the people that you serve. And so I'm excited about this theme. It seems to resonate with people. And because I think people think about the work they do in this way. And I also think there's something hidden in that theme for me. And that is that given the fact that it's been a tough 3 years, that there's still hope, that there's still work for us to do, that there's still ways for us to be successful. And as hard as every day gets, and trust me, I know, as you do, there are days I don't want to get out of bed because it's so hard. But I hope this also gives our leaders just a little bit of hope to know that if we work with people and we build those partnerships, that we are creating endless possibilities.
Every time I hear you talk about people, partnerships, and possibilities, that last word just inspires me. It's like always keeping in your heart and mind that no matter where you live, no matter what zip code you live in, there's still possibilities that things will get better and that things will get done in the community. So I am just excited about you being on the stumping ground and the campaign going around America's cities, towns, and villages, talking about the possibilities that exist in America right now. So I'm just, you can tell I get excited every time you talk.
Look, you could see it excites me too.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's going to be a good year.
and I think, and I agree with you. It is about partnerships, because if we're going to help people, we got to have those partnerships. I want to talk to you a little bit, or ask you to give some advice to local leaders during this tough time. Advice on how they can move forward during this tough time of incivility, tough time of trying to tackle tough issues. As the president of the National League of Cities, I want to close this today asking you, what kind of encouragement and advice would you give to municipal leaders during this time in our country?
So I'll start by saying, in my city, sometimes I'm called a Pollyanna because I am just super optimistic. And even in the most difficult times, and you're right, we're facing unprecedented times in our cities with challenges around violent crime and homelessness and affordability and infrastructure. There are just so many needs in our community. And if we allow ourselves to be overcome by all of the stuff that's going on, we then block our opportunity to dream and still believe that we can make a difference. And so I tell people, they're like, how can you smile? I go, because I woke up today and I still have another chance. I still have another opportunity to make things better. And so what I would say to leaders, as you get up in the morning and you I don't know, you don't necessarily jump out of bed every day, because I know sometimes I have to push myself to get out of bed. But as you push yourself to get out of bed and you look yourself in the mirror, you're still here. And you're here for a purpose. And I believe that no matter no matter how you draw on your inspiration, for me, it is my faith. But whatever it is for you, draw on that inspiration and know that you woke up another day, not just to be here, but to do something with the life and the opportunity that you've been given. And then take that in. And that's pretty powerful in itself, right? That you can smile and go, wow, I am here another day. There's something I got to do. And that alone will motivate you and get you moving. And remember, what is it they say? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Is that the joke? Whatever, right? You're not going to.
That's if you eat elephants.
Yeah, right. I'll say an apple, right? Because I don't eat elephants either at Clarence, But if you can think of it, just a bite-sized piece, what can you do today? It doesn't have to be huge. Sometimes just being present is what your job is for the day. But just remember that despite, and I know we get a lot of negative. Most people do not write elected officials to tell them what a great job they're doing. If they take the time to write, they're probably telling you something you did wrong, or that you didn't, that you didn't get right this time, or that you said, or that you breathed, or you wore the wrong color, whatever it is. But know that for every one of those emails, there are 10 people out there who are grateful for the work that you do, and believe that. And then just wake up thinking about, how can I help? How can I make someone else's life better today? That's why you took this job. I know that's why I took this job. And there are people depending on us to deliver on the promises that we made. And even if we can't deliver on them all, there is still something left in all of us to give to others.
Well, let me just, on behalf of our listeners, subscribers, say thank you so much for sharing these inspirational thoughts with us. This conversation has really even touched me and inspired me to go into 2023 committed to working on behalf of cities, towns, and villages. It is the people first. That's why elected officials do what they do. And they go to partners, community-based organizations, private sector, for solutions. And then we see those possibilities that are going to just change the entire world. We recognize that the most trusted level of government is at the local level. And so I would like to thank the 39th mayor of Tacoma, Washington, for being here, and the president of the National League of Cities for just sharing your story with us. sharing the challenges that we are facing in America's cities, towns, and villages, and then inspiring us on how you're going to have a national impact in 2023. So, Mayor, thank you so much for your time. We are excited.
Thank you, Clarence. And let me just please say thank you to you for your leadership and to the entire staff at NLC. I may be the president, but I don't do this work alone. And so I am so grateful that you and your amazing, innovative, smart staff are not just supporting me, but supporting cities, towns, and villages across this nation. And we are so grateful and lucky to have an organization like the National League of Cities fighting with us to make our communities better. So thank you.
Thank you again. And you kicked off 2023 for Cities Speak with Clarence Anthony. So I am excited for you as well. So thank you all. And thank you all for listening today.
Thanks for listening to City Speak with Clarence Anthony. If you like this show, let us know. Share this episode with your friends and make sure to subscribe. We're curious to hear what you think, what you want more of, and how we can improve. If you have feedback or an idea for a guest you'd like Clarence to sit down with, send us your thoughts at cityspeakpodcast@nlc.org. Join us next month for a new episode. Like and subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.